Brightbill was a fantastic flyer, and his favourite place to fly was up on the grassy ridge. The robot and the gosling liked to spend afternoons up there working on the finer points of flying, and it was on one such afternoon that they noticed something mysterious far out at sea. Brightbill spiralled down to his mother, flopped onto the grass and pointed to the horizon. "Mama, what is that thing?" "That is a ship." "What's a ship?" "A ship is a large vessel used for ocean transport." Brightbill's face scrunched up with confusion. "Used by who?" "I don't know." It was the first ship either of them had ever laid eyes on. From that distance it looked as though it were moving slowly, but it was actually racing through the waves. From that distance it looked as though it was small, but it was actually one of the largest ships ever built. The robot and the gosling watched it crawl across the ocean until it finally disappeared. Where had it come from? Where was it going? Who was on board? Many questions that could not be answered. The summer. On clear summer days, Roz and Brightbill and Chit Chat liked to go exploring. They investigated the island's sandy southern point. They marvelled at the rainbows that curved up from the waterfall. They surveyed the forest from the branches of tall trees, met new creatures, and sometimes they met unfriendly creatures. But the only creatures they had to worry about were the bears. One time they came upon a bear fishing in the river, and Roz whispered, "You know what to do." Brightbill flew up and away. Chit Chat scurried home through the treetops, and Roz melted into the landscape as only she could. Later they met back at the nest and told the neighbours all about their brush with danger. On dreary sunny days they would stay inside. Roz asked Brightbill and Chit Chat about dreaming and about flying and about eating and about all the things they could do that she could not. But the youngsters had too much energy to sit still for too long. They spent one drizzly afternoon kicking acorns around the nest. Chit Chat piled them up, and then Brightbill swung his big foot and the acorns went flying. The little friends chased the acorns as they bounced and rolled and spun across the floor. Then they made a new pile and kicked them again. Sometimes an acorn would bounce off Roz's body, clang, and everyone would laugh and giggle together. Even Roz laughed. "Ha, ha, ha," said the robot, trying to act normal. On clear sunny evenings they would sit outside and watch fireflies twinkling around the pond, then lie and gaze up at the darkening sky. "That big circle is the moon," said Chit Chat, "and those little lights are called stars, and one time I tried to count them all, but I could only count to 10, so I just kept counting to 10 over and over and over and over and over, and I have no idea how many stars there are, but I know it's more than 10. "They're not all stars," said Roz. "Some of them are planets." "What's a planet?" said Chit Chat. "A planet is a celestial body orbiting a star." "What does celestial mean?" "Celestial means something that is in outer space." "What's outer space?" "Outer space is the universe outside the atmosphere of our planet." "What's the universe?" "The universe is everything and everywhere." "Oh, so the universe is our island?" None of them would ever really understand the universe, including Roz. Her computer brain knew only so much. She could talk about the earth and the sun and the moon and the planets and a few stars, and not much else. The night sky was full of streaking, shimmering and blinking lights that she simply couldn't identify. Clearly, Roz was not an astronomer. On dreary summer evenings, Roz and Brightbill would curl up together, just the two of them, and listen to the rain pattering on the roof of the nest. The robot would tell stories of annoying pine cones and terrible storms and camouflaging insects, but the sound of the rain always made Brightbill sleepy, and he'd be out before his mother could ever finish a story. The Strange Family. It was a sweltering afternoon, and the heat had put everyone in a bad mood. Roz was standing in the shade watching her son out on the water. The other goslings were teasing him about something when they suddenly burst into laughter, and Brightbill turned and hurried home with a stormy expression on his face. He stomped into the garden and right past his mother without saying a word. "What's wrong, Brightbill?" said Roz as she followed her son into the nest. "Nothing," he squawked. "Leave me alone." "Tell me what's wrong." "I don't want to talk about it." "Maybe I can help." "Mama, the other goslings were making fun of me." "What did they say?" "They called you a monster and then laughed at me for having a monster mother." "They should know by now that I am not a monster. Would you like me to talk to them?" "No, don't do that. That will just make things worse." The robot sat next to her son. "Mama, I know you're a robot, but I don't understand what a robot is." "A robot is a machine. I was not born. I was built." "Who built you?" "I don't know. I do not remember being built. My first memory is waking up on the northern shore of this island." Were you smaller back then? Said the gosling. No, I've always been this size. Ros looked down at her weathered body. However, I used to be shiny, like the surface of the pond. I used to stand straighter than a tree trunk. I used to speak a different language. I've not grown bigger, but I have changed very much. The robot wanted to explain things to her son, but the truth was that she understood very little about herself. It was a mystery how she'd come to life here. It was a mystery why her computer brain knew some things but not others. She tried to answer the questions, but her answers only left her more confused. What do you mean you're not alive? Squawked Brightbill. It's true, I'm not an animal. I do not eat or breathe. I'm not alive. You move and talk and think, Mama. You're definitely alive. It was impossible for such a young goose to understand technical things like computer brains and batteries and machines. The gosling was much better at understanding natural things, like islands and forests and parents. Parents. The word suddenly left Brightbill feeling uneasy. You're not my real mother, are you? There are many kinds of mothers, said the robot. Some mothers spend their whole lives caring for their young. Some lay eggs and immediately abandon them. Some care for their offspring or of other mothers. I have tried to act like your mother, but no, I am not your birth mother. Do you know what happened to my birth mother? Ros told Brightbill about that fateful day in spring, about how the rocks had fallen and only one egg had survived, about how she'd put the egg in a nest and carried it away, about how she'd watched over the egg until a tiny gosling hatched. Brightbill listened carefully. Should I stop calling you Mama? Said the gosling. I will still act your mother, no matter what you call me, said the robot. I think I'll keep calling you Mama. I think I'll keep calling you Son. We're a strange family, said Brightbill with a little smile, but I kind of like it. Me too, said Ros. The gosling takes off. It must be hard to have a robot for a mother. I think the hardest part for Brightbill was all the mystery that surrounded Ros. Where had she come from? What was it like to be a robot? Would she always be there for him? These questions filled the gosling's mind, and his feelings for his mother swung between love and confusion and anger. I'm sure many of you know what that's like. Ros could sense that Brightbill was struggling, and so she spent a lot of time talking with him about families and geese and robots. There are other robots on the island? Said the gosling during one of their talks. Yes, there are others on the island, said Ros, but they are inoperative. Inoperative? For a robot, being inoperative is like being dead. Where are the dead robots? On the northern shore. I want to see them. I do not think that is a good idea. Why not? You are still a gosling. You are too young to see dead robots. I will take you to see them when you are older. Mama, I'm not a gosling anymore. Brightbill puffed out his chest. I'm already 4 months old. I am sorry, said Ros, but you cannot go. Brightbill stomped around the garden and squawked, This isn't fair. I promise I will take you to see them when you are older, said the robot. But I want to go now. Please calm down. You can't even fly. I could take off and you wouldn't even be able to stop me. Ros stood, and her long shadow fell across her son. The gosling could feel his emotions swinging wildly, and for a moment he was actually afraid of his own mother. Without thinking, he sprinted towards the pond, beat his wings, and flew away. The runaway. Your son will be fine, said Loudwing. You know how they are at this age. I do not know, said Ros. Please tell me how they are at this age. Oh, right. Well, Brightbill is growing up fast. It's only natural for adolescent goslings to be a little moody. He just needs to be alone for a while. You've raised a wonderful son. I know he'll come home soon. Try not to worry. But Ros did worry. At least she worried as much as a robot is capable of worrying. Brightbill had never run away or flown away, and suddenly Ros was computing all the things that could go wrong. A violent storm, a broken wing, a predator. She had to find her son before something bad happened. There was only one place Brightbill could have gone, the robot gravesite. So Ros galloped northward. She leapt over rocks and ducked under branches and charged through meadows without ever slowing her pace. She raced all the way across the island until she finally stepped onto the sea cliffs above the gravesite. And there was Brightbill, perched on the edge looking at the robot parts scattered on the shore below. His eyes were wet. Don't be angry, he said as his mother walked over. I am not angry, but you should not have flown off like that. You could have gotten hurt, or worse. I was worried sick. I'm sorry, Mama. It's okay, said Ros. It's only natural for goslings your age to be a little moody. Mama, I need to understand what you are, and I think it might help to see the other robots. You're right, it might help. Why are you not down there? I was about to go, said Brightbill, but I got nervous. I want you with me. Let's go down together. The dead robots. The gosling floated on the breeze beside his mother as she climbed down the cliffside. Down they went, past ledges and seagulls, tough little trees, until they were standing on the rocky shore with the cliffs looming behind them. The graveside changed. Roz's crate was gone, lost to weather or waves. Some of the robot parts were gone too. Other parts were gritty with sand or tangled in seaweed or inhabited by small scuttling creatures. One smashed torso still had a head and legs attached. Roz and Brightbill huddled around the quartz and studied the mess of tubes spilling out. This thing used to look like you, said Brightbill. Yes, we are the same type of robot. And now this robot is dead? In a way. Will you ever die, Mama? I think so. Will I die? All living things die eventually. The gosling's face scrunched with worry. Brightbill, you're going to live a long and happy life. Roz laid her hand on her son's back. You should not worry about dying. The gosling's face relaxed, and then he pointed to a small round shape on the back of the dead robot's head. What's that? He said. Roz leaned in closer. That's a button, which is a knob on a piece of machinery that can be pressed to operate it. Brightbill began pressing the button. Click, click, click. Nothing's happening, he said. Probably because the robot is dead. Click, click, click. Mama, do you have a button? Brightbill watched as his mother's head turned all the way round and a small button came into view. You've got one, he said. I've never noticed it before. Neither did I, said the robot. The gosling giggled. Oh, Mama, you have so much to learn. About yourself. Roz reached for the button on her head, but her hand automatically stopped before she could touch it. She tried with her other hand, but it automatically stopped as well. It seems I cannot press the button, she said. Would you like to try? What will happen? I think that I will shut down, but I think you can simply press the button again to restart me. You think? Squawked Brightbill. What if you're wrong? What if you wake up different? What if you never wake up? Mama, I don't want to shut you down. Roz turned her head back around and saw that Brightbill's face was once again scrunched with worry. She knelt down beside him and said, Of course you do not have to shut me down. I'm sorry if I scared you. Are you okay? I'm okay. Brightbill sniffled and wiped his eyes, and then he heard splashing. Otters were playing in the ocean. He'd never seen otters before. He stared as they swam and dove and sloshed around with one another. They seemed to be having a ridiculous amount of fun, and suddenly the gosling was smiling again. Hello, my name is Brightbill, he shouted over the waves, and this is my mama. Her name is Roz. The last time those otters had seen Roz, they thought she was some kind of monster. But since that, they'd heard she was remarkably friendly, and that she'd even adopted an orphaned gosling. And so the otters smiled at Roz and Brightbill. Then they swam straight over and splashed onto the rocks. Hello there, said the biggest otter. Nice to meet you both. Actually, Roz, we've met once before, but you might not remember me. My name's Shelley. I do remember you, said the robot, but I'm glad to learn your name is Shelley. You know each other, said the gosling. These otters were the first animals I ever met, said Roz. They were also the first animals who ever ran away from me. Yeah, sorry about that, said Shelley, as the other otters sniffed the robot's legs. You know, Brightbill, when we first saw your mum, she was packed in a box and surrounded by soft, squishy stuff. You wouldn't believe how small she looked, all folded up in there. Brightbill's nose sniffled. We thought she was dead, but when we reached into the box, she came to life and climbed out looking like a sparkling monster. Brightbill's eyes welled up with tears, and then he felt his mother scoop him into his arms. Are you okay? She whispered in his ear. I think I've learnt enough about robots for today, he whispered back. I'm sorry, otters, said Roz, but we really must be going. I hope I didn't upset the little guy, said Shelley. I thought he'd like to hear how we first met. Brightbill will be fine, said Roz, using a friendly voice, but we've had a very busy day and we should go home. It was nice to see you again. Goodbye. Roz turned, and with her long strides she carried her son away from the gravesite and over to the base of the sea cliffs. Would you like to sit on my shoulders as I climb? Said the robot. I feel like flying, said the gosling. I'll meet you at the top. Brightbill flapped his wings and disappeared into the sky. Roz began climbing the wall. Up she went, expertly negotiating rocky columns and ledges until she hoisted herself onto the cliff top, where 2 young bears were waiting. Okay, I think Miss LaFan is going to continue the story. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. It's been a great story to read. I'll speak to you soon.